Welcome to Catholic Link. My name is Alanna Berg, the co-host of Liturgy Live, and I'm here today with Sterling Jaquith. She is a Catholic convert. She's written 4 books, and she hosts the Coffee and Pearls podcast every week for Catholic moms. Today, we're going to be talking about goal setting the Catholic way. So that's a big topic, Sterling. What does that even mean? How do you goal set the Catholic way?
The Catholic way. Yeah. Well, let me back up by saying first, I've been goal setting since I was 15. My dad was really into that. Maybe even before then, I remember we would sit, at the kitchen table and he would say like, what do you want to do this year? And I think he was trying to get me to focus because I'm a little scatterbrained and I lacked focus, especially when I was younger. And so we would sit and we would talk about, what I would tackle for the year. And so I have this fond memories of goal setting. And from then on, I read a lot of books about goal setting, and I have a degree in finance. And when you exist in the business world, they're really into goals and spreadsheets and charts for things, right? And so I was always going through and doing this activity, setting goals, whether it would be for me personally or for one of the businesses that I had started. And so as I began to refine this process over the years, I obviously began to do this in a secular way. And so then around the age of 23, I converted to Protestantism and kind of a Calvary Chapel brand of Protestantism. So we were reading the Bible a lot, and I, met Jesus, and he changed my life. And then I began to look at goal setting a little bit differently. How do you pull Jesus into, weight loss or saving money or wanting to buy a house? Or for me at the time, it was, finishing my degree or starting a business, something like that. And so I grappled with that. And one of the things that I set a goal about, and I talk about this in one of my books, was in 2009, I set a goal to meet my husband that year. And it was like the number one goal. I said, meet my husband this year, which was kind of surprising for me because up until this point, I had not wanted to get married at all, right? I was chewing on the modern day brand of feminism that says, we don't need a man. You can do everything yourself. Why would you get married? It's such a, old institution. And so it was a big deal for me that I said, look, I'm going to be really intentional about this. And I was nervous, Alanna. I was like, can you set a goal like that? I don't know.
That's a big goal.
It is, yeah. And I kind of felt like a fraud a little bit. Like, well, write this down on this paper, and I hope you're going to come through for me, buddy. And I did. I met my husband that October. So it wasn't right away. I will say sometimes it takes a while. And I had been trying the whole time. I had been swing dancing and going to church events for single people and all of these things. But I ended up meeting him on eHarmony, and he was Catholic, which was a huge blow, okay, because I was not Catholic. And I was specifically the kind of non-Catholic that reads books about why we're not Catholic, okay? So I was really dug in on, hey, this is not the guy for me. It's not going to happen. And that's another very long story. But obviously we fell in love, and I entered the Catholic Church right before we got married in 2010. And I thought that life was just going to be great, right? Have you ever had that moment where you just really leaned on God? Like he asked you to do something hard and you were like, okay, God, I'm going to do this. And then you're just going to smooth everything out. And so you jump and you're like, this is going to be great. And then it isn't. Have you guys made any family decisions like that?
Family decisions, or even like, okay, I converted to Christ. My reversion was kind of like, yes, everything's going good. And then what happens? Usually suffering. In my case, suffering happens.
So nobody told me that. Like I showed up to the Catholic Church, and I felt like it was the first day of school, and I was like, nah, I'm here. And I thought that they would throw me a party, and it just wasn't like that. It was a pretty cold parish. There weren't a lot of people on fire for Christ. And, it was just not a great experience. And so I was really kind of confused about that because I thought being Catholic was going to be wonderful. My husband sold it to me like that. I had read all these books, and that was not my experience. And that probably happened for 2 or 3 years where I was just kind of stuck in this new city. We got pregnant on our honeymoon. So I dove right into, being a mom of young kids. And so it was really frustrating. and I wasn't happy with my life. Like here I had gone from working and doing all these productive things and feeling great about myself to just like being stuck in my house alone in a city where nobody liked me, right? It was just terrible. And then I read a Matthew Kelly book. So that was a huge turning point for me. And I know it sounds cliche, but you know, Matthew Kelly said, hey, we're all called to be saints. And that was just this huge light bulb moment for me. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what I want to do with my life. And I think it was this perfect blend of, you know, I really wanted to be productive and feel like I was moving towards something, but I wasn't going to have a job per se. And I wasn't going to change the fact that I was still living in, you know, toddler land with diapers and crying and all of that. And so it felt really possible to me. Like, okay, I'm going to be a saint. So that's when I started reading books about saints. And what happens when you read books about saints, though? It totally bums you out, right? Like, you're like, what?
Like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, is that the saint that I'm called to be?
Right.
I don't know about that.
And the more you read, the more you're like, the theme is pretty clear here about how they live, right? Like, it's really bad. And it did not inspire me, I guess, the way that I had hoped. I was like, oh, I hope God isn't asking me to do that. And so it felt kind of out of reach for me. You know, I'd read about Zélie Martin, right? And I'd think about her living in France, kind of rural France, and what her life looked like. And it was really hard to feel connected to that, you know, and also to feel inspired by that, because even though it is inspiring that she was such an amazing person, it felt so far from the way that I was living my life that I was like, I don't know. I don't see how I'm going to even come close to that. So I wallowed in that for a little while. And I want to say that because this journey for me, it hasn't been fast. And I think if you're feeling like, wow, I have no idea how to set goals. I'm 34 and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, right? And like, that's a funny question to ask yourself. And you're feeling kind of stymied and stuck. It's okay. It's a process, right? And I'm going to tell you how to start that process and really get into it. And it'll be faster for you because I'm going to tell you all the things. So that's good. You shouldn't have to wallow for as long. But I was stuck on this sainthood thing. And then I realized that I was reading a book from St. Augustine. And he was talking about peace. And of course we read the story of Paul in the boat, Peter, and how Jesus says, why are you guys freaking out? And they're in the middle of the storm and they're like, Jesus, we're freaking out because we're about to drown and die, right? And he's like, no, it's cool. You just focus on me. But we read that all the time and we don't take that into our daily life. Or at best, when we have a crisis, we try to cling to that, right? When something really, really bad happens, we remember the boat story. But I began to realize that peace actually is the thing that we're supposed to have all the time. And the theme of the saints, their lives, it was not actually suffering. That's kind of the melancholic view of things, right? I'm like, oh, they all suffered. But actually, the theme was peace, that no matter what they had going on, they just always brought it right back to Christ. And they're like, it's going to be okay. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's going to be okay. I love that about Mother Teresa because she felt like God was asking her to build this city, the city of peace. And someone said, where are you going to get the money for that? And she was like, it doesn't matter. God will provide it. Like, she really had no anxiety over that. And even when they began tearing down the work that she had done because she didn't have the right construction permits, she was like, no, don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. Like, she really meant that. She had that kind of peace in the everyday storm attitude. And I began to realize that that was the thing I didn't have any of, right? I wasn't doing that at all. So I don't know if that's something that resonates with you. I know, Alanna, you have 2 kids, and so you're kind of in the thick of, okay, how am I raising these kids? And they're getting old enough to have ideas of their own, not just be like in diapers, right? Yeah. And I imagine peace is something that you're looking for a lot.
Absolutely. Peace is, I completely agree with the call to want to be a saint and the beginning of looking into that and thinking, I don't know if I can be this kind of saint with all of the suffering that you see. And in the beginning, when you're starting the purgative life of like trying to turn your life around, it's hard and there is suffering. And it's hard for us to say to people, hey, you need to have peace here. And they're going to look at you and say, what? How?
Right.
How do I have peace in my life? Look at the chaos. I'm trying really hard and it just sucks right now. Because the beginning of that sucks.
Yes.
And it's so hard. But when you come to the point where your desire is the will of God, that peace in your heart is so, it just makes the anxiety flow away. And as someone who, if you listen to Liturgy Live or watch the live streams, knows that I have serious anxieties that I've been fighting, and Christ has been super important and elemental in my growth in that, that the desire for more of that peace, you know, to cultivate the peace, to sow the peace, to reap the peace, like that is completely where I want my goal setting to be. But I know that one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is because I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't think I'm alone in not knowing what I'm doing, or what, if anybody else is not knowing what they're doing either, to how to set goals in a way that is peaceful in real life, you know, to cultivate sanctity. So how do we do that? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I'll tell you the three ways that we do it wrong first, because I think, you know, this is something that almost all of us have done or tried to do. So the first thing is we say, okay, I get it. I get the boat thing. We're supposed to look on Jesus and just trust him no matter what's storming around us. But the first thing we tell ourselves is, well, I have to, you know, remove myself from the world in order to make that happen, right? So the Benedict option book came out, I don't know, a few years ago now, and it was so romantic. It was like, if you just move into the middle of the woods and live in community with Catholic people, you're going to be just fine. And we were like, what?
I think that's just like some like idea that everyone's like, what if we just do this?
Right.
Like, you know, we're just like, maybe if we just did this and it will be okay. And then reality hits and we're like, oh. And I love how in the middle of the book, he just says, the whole point of this book is to just live authentic Catholic lives.
Right.
The end.
Right.
That could have been, his book could have been one sentence long.
Absolutely. And so, you know, we have this pull to that. I do that all the time. I'm like, if we just moved to a smaller city, or if we just didn't go anywhere, right? Like, then I'd be strong enough to manage this. But that's, you know, obviously not realistic for the vast majority of us. If God wanted us to be priests or nuns, he would have called us to that. Be absolutely certain of that. He would call you to that life if that's what it's supposed to be. But most of us have not been called to that life. We've not been called to take a vow of poverty or chastity. And so we don't need to worry about those vocations, because he probably isn't asking you to do that. Well, certainly for Alanna and I, we know that we're married and we have kids. So we know pretty well. It's too late for that. And so, you know, that is definitely not what I'm talking about. You know, there isn't enough. I'm not asking you to withdraw from the world or stop going to the event or not watch any movies or get rid of your smartphone. You know, that is not actually the secret to peace. You can't manufacture your life so that only peaceful things happen to you. Okay. So I think we have this wrong idea that if we just removed ourselves, then it'd be okay. The second thing that we do is we think if we just had enough control, then it'd be okay. And that's where we dive into goal setting and we say, okay, I'm going to get really sharp about my meal planning. I'm going to get really clear about my budget. I'm going to be more strict with the kids about what they're watching, who they're hanging out with, right? We start to try to lock down our life where we live. So we've given up the idea of going somewhere remote, but now we think, okay, if I can just control everything where I'm at, then I'll have peace. But of course, that doesn't work at all. And that's why most of you don't like goal setting, right? You already know deep down, you have no control over anything. And so pretty quickly, you either stop setting goals, right? You're like, well, what's the point of that? Because I'm just going to be disappointed. Or you set them with great trepidation, right? Or you feel like a fraud. You start writing them down, but you're like, I already know this isn't what's going to happen, right? And it's a yucky feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you're like, Jesus, take the wheel.
Right. That's true. It's true. You're like, I'm just going to wing it. Let's just see what goes up.
Yeah.
So that's another lie that we tell ourselves, that, if our spreadsheets were just right, or if our schedule at home was just right, I'd finally get the house clean and then I would find peace, right? You're probably not telling yourself that last bit. You want the house to be clean and you think that's going to make you happier. What you're really chasing is peace, because that's what God wants you to have. But we get a little twisted up about what is going to give us peace. So the third thing that we tell ourselves that's an absolute lie is that we say, if we just had more money, then we would have peace, right? And that's absolutely true no matter how much money you have. Okay, so studies say that we always think if we had just about, it's about 10 to 20% more money than we had right now, we'd be fine, right? So just think about how much money you make and think, okay, if I just had 10 to 20% more, then I'd be happy. But of course, that's what everybody says along the spectrum. So it doesn't matter how poor you are or how wealthy you are. And all of us who are watching this from a computer in America are extremely wealthy, but none of us would say that, right? We'd all be like, oh, but if I just had that 10 to 20% more, then I'd be okay.
Yeah.
And so that's another lie that we tell ourselves, that the peace is impossible unless we had, enough money.
Right. Do you think it's also a confusion between peace and comfort?
Absolutely. And all these things are tied up together, right? Comfort, security, and then control, right? We think these are the things we want: comfort, security, and control. But God doesn't promise any of those things.
No.
The only thing he promises us is peace in a storm. And that's, once I finally figured that out, that was my huge light bulb moment where I was like, wow, God is promising me. He promises that we can have peace no matter what. And I wouldn't even make it 3 hours into my Monday without losing it, right? Like 3 hours in, I would already, if this is peace, I would already be drifting and I would lose it. And so one year I just said, what if that was my main focus, was just to begin training myself to notice when I've lost my peace and to bring it back. That's it. And I began doing that. And eventually I created this 5-step exercise for what to do when you lose your peace. And the first step to that is just recognizing it. And so for a lot of you, that's just where you need to be at right now, which is just noticing every moment that you lose peace. And you know it. Like maybe you're watching this right now and you're feeling really calm and it's a beautiful day and you had a lovely Christmas holiday and you're really present and you're giving yourselves over to this moment and you really, really feel peace. Whereas some of you are trying to watch this, but maybe your 2-year-old is crawling on you or your kids are like, I'm hungry. And you're like, be quiet, I'm learning about goals. Okay. And it's not feeling peaceful to you. You've already known that right now you've lost your peace and you need to bring it back. And in that moment, if that's you, I have a lot of little kid examples because that's just, I'm in the thick of little kid land right now. But if that's you, you have kind of 2 choices as I see it. One, you can let the kids go and say, look, they're totally fine. They're safe. They're not actually starving. This is really important to me right now. So I'm going to give myself over to this moment. Or you can say, you know what? This workshop is being recorded. I can come back and watch this later. My kids actually are really hungry and I need to solve that for them right now. I'm going to be true to myself and my vocation, and I'm going to do that. And I think both of those responses are fine. The secret is finding peace in whichever way you choose. Okay. And here's why this is important. Because I've got to convince Alanna to set goals this year, you guys. Because she's like, I'm not having it. I don't want to do it.
I do and I don't at the same time.
Right.
I'm excited and I'm terrified.
Yes. And I think fear is really the right word because we're so scared that we're going to pick the wrong goals. First of all, like we don't know. And we're just going to pick something wrong. And then we're so scared that whatever we pick, we're not going to do it. And so I want to offer up this concept of peace. I know I've been saying it over and over and over again, but here's why it's important if you're trying to lose weight, right? And this is one of the top 3 goals that almost everybody has, especially women, right? They're like, I just need to lose that 10 pounds or that 60 pounds or 150 pounds, whatever it is, right? But we feel like, oh, if I just did that, I would be happier. We use the word happier, but we really want peace, right? And so that's a great goal. being healthy and honoring the temple that God gave us is such a good and healthy thing to want. But what we need to recognize is that we shouldn't sell ourselves this lie that if we just lost 20 pounds, then we would be capable of having peace, right? So if we can back that up and start from a place of peace and say, you know what, God loves me just the way that I am. We say that a lot, but very few of us really, really believe that, okay? And there's nothing I have to do to earn that love. There's no change in my life that needs to happen in order for God to go, oh, okay, now you got it, kid. Now I like you, right? Once we understand that and we can be peaceful right the way that we are, then from that place of strength, we can tackle the other stuff. Because the other stuff, they're all emotional problems. Being overweight, not having enough money, having a crazy family. I have a really chaotic, kind of toxic family situation. And yet you'll find that when you hang out with me, I'm still pretty calm and I'm pretty peaceful. And then when I start telling people about the way that I live, they're like, what? I could tell. They're like, why aren't you like a crazy person? That sounds really hard. I'm like, well, that just is my family situation. I can't change it. And here I'm in the boat and I see the storm, but God just asked me to be peaceful in the meantime. And from that place of strength, you can make way healthier decisions, right? So instead of feeling frantic right here, oh, we just need more money, I can't, and the kids and our mortgage, and we're not saving for retirement. You know, the internet and American television does a really good job of making you feel like you're in a crisis situation financially, right? I feel like that no matter how much money I've had. The world makes you feel like it's not enough. And it's not just not enough so you can't buy Coach purses. They really do make you feel like it's a crisis and you're going to have a huge, huge problem if you don't have enough money in your 401k, or if you're not, you know, doing XYZ for your kids or for your house, something like that. But again, that's a place of fear. If we can come from a place of peace that says, you know what, it really doesn't matter. I have financially survived literally every day of my life up until this point. Whatever that means, God has gotten you to this point. You're not dead yet. Even people who have lost everything, they are still living and watching this video. They're doing okay. They may be in some pain and some suffering, but God says, I'm with you. I have a plan for you, and I want you to be peaceful right now. And so if we can begin to really internalize this idea, the peace is what's going to actually give you strength to set goals and to do them, by the way. And that's why you're not doing them all the other years that you've set goals. You set them in January and you're like, boop, 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 this is going to be great. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a new me this year, right? I love new beginnings.
I love that sound.
Yeah. That's what I hear in my head. There's always a trumpet when I'm I'm very excited about something. And so you get to this place where you're like, I'm going to do these goals. It's going to be great. And then life happens and you let those fear feelings creep back in, and you let the anxiety creep back in, and the depression. And we're all suffering with that. I don't have a single friend that says, no, I'm good. I don't have an anxiety problem or depression problem, right? We live in such a crazy world right now that that's just par for the course, right? Like all of us are dealing with that.
Right.
And when Father Michael Gately says that, you know, this is the darkest time that we've seen, and we will see the greatest saints rise out of this time, that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about, you know, international war or struggle over oil, or even religious freedoms, although we're seeing that be squashed more and more and more. But we live in an emotionally charged time with the least amount of support that we've ever had. Okay, so we have the most amount of expectations being put on us with the least amount of genuine support that we've ever had. And so we're living these lives in isolation, and it's just making us so anxious and depressed. And of course, you're not going to be able to lose weight and save money or learn how to knit or whatever it is that you think is going to bring you peace if you're constantly in a state of anxiety. And so my challenge to everybody this year is, yes, I still think it's important to set your goals. I created an entire program to teach people how to set goals the right way. And I'm bringing in a lot of those secular pieces of, good and bad goals. But I always start the program by saying, none of that matters if you can't find peace exactly where you're at. Because otherwise those feelings are going to creep in and you're going to make bad choices. We never make good choices from a place of fear or anxiety. Right? And so even if you're really good for the whole week, right? Monday through Friday, and you're rocking it and you're getting your workout in and you're eating your, rabbit food or whatever you decided to do, like by Friday, you're so stressed out. Your anxiety is high. Your willpower is gone. Okay. Willpower is a finite resource. So by Friday night, which is supposed to be a holy and penitential day, right? Fridays. And yet by Friday night, we're like, let's just order a pizza. I can't handle my own life anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens. We just lose it and we're like, it's gone. I have no strength left. We order the pizza and then we feel terrible about ourselves because we probably couldn't afford the money or the calories. It didn't work within our whole plan. And now we actually feel like we're terrible people. So we've lost even this wonderful love that Christ has for us because we tell him it's not true. And we start to tell him like, oh, Lord, you don't like me because I make bad choices. And even if we believe that he has this, everlasting love for us, most of us, I think, feel often that he doesn't like us. We have this deep, deep shame over our bad choices. Like, well, he couldn't possibly like me when I literally just prayed my rosary and then turned right around and made this bad choice. And you weren't true to yourself. Mm-hmm. Anytime we're not true to ourselves, right, we feel smaller and smaller inside and just yuckier.
Yeah. The self-hate is real.
It is
real.
And so, adults are jaded because we've been setting goals for a long time. We don't reach them. And now we don't like to do the activity anymore. The other thing that I've learned, and I don't know if this happens to everybody in their 30s or if it just happens to me because I've had 5 kids in 8 years and my life has been a little crazy. But I have learned that I can't predict what's going to happen for the year, even a little bit, even within like a 5%, 10%, just nothing. I have no idea what's going to happen this year. And I think once you've lived through enough of your adult years, you just begin to really understand that. And so setting goals feels kind of silly because you understand that there's job problems that, you or your husband might experience. Someone might be diagnosed with cancer. You might lose someone in your family. You might get surprise pregnant. Just so you guys know, in 2018, my number one goal, which I announced publicly because I teach people how to set goals, was not to get pregnant. And 3 weeks later, we found out when we were surprise pregnant with our baby number 5, who was only going to be 13 months younger than the next baby. Okay. So I had to put my money where my mouth was and show everybody that you can have peace in that situation, that you can be angry and upset and frustrated and confused and all of these hot feelings and then really sad because I knew that I was probably going to be stuck in bed for a great deal of time. And I was in bed rest for 6 months this year. And I had to show everyone that I would accept that and that I could have peace in that situation. And that wasn't something that was easy. I had to wake up and purpose to do that every single day, but it was possible. And I did do that. And that's the thing that I want to teach all Catholics is that's the special gift that God has given us is he's given us the ability to have peace in the middle of the worst storm that you've ever thought, could happen to you. And that may happen this year. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't set goals, right? We shouldn't be scared of the future. All we need to know is that God's going to be with us every step of the way.
All right.
It still sounds a little bit unbelievable. I know, I promise. And, that's why I have an entire program around that. And gentlemen, I'm sorry, because this is it's a program that's just for women. And I did that on purpose, not because anything about setting goals or finding peace is unique to women, but I think that women don't have very many safe places to be women anymore, right? Especially traditional Catholic women. We're being sold a bunch of lies by the world. We're being made to feel like what we choose is not good enough. And all the body issue stuff. And we just need a place that's with, faithful Catholic women who say, I see you and I love you just the way that you are. And so the Catholic Women Shine program that I do, it comes in a couple different parts. And so after Alanna and I are done with this, we'll take some questions in a minute. You can go to CatholicWomenShine.com and sign up for a webinar. I'm doing a really big webinar tomorrow. It'll sound a little bit like this, but with some other components. And then you can download my goal setting worksheets for free. Everybody can get them. And what they're going to do is they're going to challenge you to anchor all of your goals into Christ, and also to recognize when you lose your peace, because you're not going to achieve your goals if you don't get to the end of every single day and go, whoa, where did I lose my peace today? And how am I going to avoid that tomorrow? Because that's really the secret to goal setting. The Catholic way is really understanding that you just need to discern the will of God and to do it, and to know that you're on the right path for that. You should have really rock solid, unshakable peace. Now, I lose my peace every single day. So you're not going to become like a Benedictine, monk where it's just you're in this Zen place all the time. That's not going to happen. Really what it looks like is you're just going to tune into that so much faster. So instead of getting really upset or anxious and letting that rule you for 4 hours, you'll notice like 10 minutes in and you'll go, ooh, what's going on right now? Something's off. I don't feel peaceful right now. And then you'll go seek out what stole your peace, and you'll begin building programs and systems around not putting yourself in that situation again, or getting out of it even faster. So I hope you can begin to see that it really doesn't matter what your goals are. We all have different goals. And I think striving for sainthood and wanting to be the best version of ourselves, a la Matthew Kelly, is actually very important. But we know deep down that we're not going to make progress on that if we don't change something about our behavior. And I'm here to tell you that the thing that you need to change is your ability to recognize when you've lost peace and to get back to that place as quickly as possible.
All right. I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. So when we're setting goals, how do you find peace in the setting? Because I know part of this goal setting situation is, do you have peace in is it not that is this goal scary, or is this goal too easy? Do I have peace in setting this goal? So not just even peace in everyday life in the moments, which I think is a really important thing to have awareness of and be mindful of when we lose our peace, and to be able to step back and find it again. But also when we're in the process of this setting goals, how do we know?
Right.
How, like, where is the peace in this goal setting? What I want to do God's will for my life. How am I, like, can you send me an email, God?
Right. Like, what are the top 5? What are the top 5 things?
Like, I need to know.
And I think you used the right word there, which was scared. I'm scared that I'm going to set the wrong goals. Because, most of us, even if we've been Catholic our whole lives, and I had many, many years of not being religious at all, we've kind of steered away from wanting this like perfect holy life. And so we perhaps set some goals that were anchored in the world instead of God. And so we're scared that we're going to do that again. And so here's what I have everybody do. The first thing I have you do is I have you review the previous year. And you're going to ask yourself, for each of these categories, your religious life, your health, your ability to rest. I think that's really important to look at. I'm really bad at resting on Sundays, right? So I usually have a goal around, hey, this is the year you're going to figure that out, because otherwise I just get kind of anxious on Sundays, knowing that I should be relaxing, but then not relaxing. Okay. And so you're going to pour all of these ideas that you have after reviewing the previous year. You're going to pour them all out onto this piece of paper. I call it the goal fill up. And your goal is to fill up this paper with everything in your mind that you could possibly think of. I do an 8-week minimalism course for people that's totally free, and I teach them how to basically get rid of your stuff and feel really intentional about what you keep in your house. And that's a huge goal for people, right? They're drowning in clutter and they know it's stressing them out, and so they think, great, this is a good goal, I want to go through the minimalism thing. right? So they put that down. Maybe you want to cultivate a new hobby because you think that you need some more outlets for relaxing. Women, we know we're doing a terrible job of relaxing. We know it intuitively. And so we're like, if I got into, knitting, it'd be great. That's the secret. So you're going to fill up this piece of paper with everything that you can think of. Meal planning for your family, getting exercise in, maybe, starting a savings account, these things that are so common for all of us, right? So you're going to write them all down. Then you're going to rank them. So I actually created a ranking system for which goals would have the most impact on your life. Okay. And I'll use weight as an example because I just had back-to-back babies. I weigh 60 pounds more than I almost always do. And it would be really easy for me to be super upset about that and for that to be my number one goal, right? Because when you wake up and your body is uncomfortable, you think that is such a huge, huge deal. And of course it is. It is a big deal, like I said, because you are uncomfortable all day long. But the truth is, Alanna, I could be literally this exact same weight for the entire year. I could have this conversation with you, at the end of 2019, and I would still be a good person. I could still have a faithful relationship with God. I'd, Lord willing, still be married, still have my children, the truth is, for all we think that weight loss is such a huge deal, it actually isn't. It doesn't have a significant impact on our life for most of us. Now, I imagine that if you are 300 pounds and you struggle even walking from the car through the grocery store, right? Then the impact weight loss is going to have on your life is going to be much higher than if you're just 20 or 30 pounds overweight, because you can really continue to have a fruitful life being a little bit pudgy, right? Yep. That's just true. And so I have you go through and rank your goals based on how impactful they would be to your life and how easy they would be to accomplish. So the one I talk about the most in the program is having a rock solid prayer routine, because I believe that every single person needs to have a rock solid prayer routine that they go through, preferably first thing in the morning, in order to have this unshakable peace that I'm talking about. And so I would rank that as an impact of 1. So the lower the number is, the more impactful it is to your goals. So weight loss for me, these 60 pounds that I'm carrying, probably is an impact of a 3 for me. Yep, it'd be good and interesting and I'd probably feel better about myself. But if I lost weight and I didn't have a rock solid prayer routine, my life would get worse. I guarantee it. And so in the ranking process, I say, your faith life should rank number 1. It should have the most impact in your life. Now, a lot of women who come to see me speak at conferences, they have been doing a prayer routine for the last 20 years, right? They're like, I have a chair and I have a little bag and I have my books, and they just have that thing down and they do it every single day. And so for them, that impact score wouldn't be that high because they've already established that as a routine and it's not something that they're missing. Whereas I find that a lot of women who are newly Catholic or young and just haven't had the opportunity to lean into adulthood as much, they don't have that routine set as clearly. Or for me, I always lose that routine when I have a new baby, right? I have a new baby. I stop waking up early. And so for those of you who go through this program and you'll see all of my goals from start to finish, that will appear on my goals this year because I need to reestablish that as a routine. So I help them rank their goals based on the impact it has and then the ease of that particular goal. So if we go back to a prayer routines are actually pretty easy. You can create a list of things that you're going to do for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. It's free. It's in your bedroom or your living room. It's pretty easy actually to do it. Whereas losing 60 pounds kind of involves not doing something all day, right? So all day you're not eating the food that you want to eat, and all day you're trying to move your body, even though it's kind of uncomfortable to do that. So the ease of losing weight is actually pretty hard. I'd put that at a 3 or a 4. Okay. especially because, like I said, most of it is tied up in emotions, and we're eating because we don't have peace. And so, learning how to fix that involves some deep self-work. Whereas your prayer routine should be pretty easy. And so when you rank your goals, establishing a prayer routine should have an impact score of 1 and an ease goal of 1. And so the lower the number is, the higher your goal is going to rank. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to help you. First of all, you're going to go through this system, and it's going to be like, wow, you're going to ask this question of yourself. Like, okay, if you saved $5,000, how much would that impact your life this year? And for some people, that would be a tremendously huge impact on their life. And for some people, it just wouldn't actually. And it's important to ask these questions because how you behave is going to be true to the truth, right? So if you know it's not that important, it's unlikely that you're really going to do it. And so asking the right questions is going to help you determine this. Now, the other thing, Alanna, that I do is that I try to set all of my goals in adoration, and I try to pray over them, and I really invite God into that experience. And when you open your heart up to the Holy Spirit and you say, okay, Holy Spirit, I want you to show me what the most important things are, and you begin going through this ranking exercise, you're going to hear this little voice that goes, that's not really that important. Okay. Like, that meal planning isn't going to revolutionize your life if maybe what you really need is to start going to adoration once a week. Like, it's really, really hard to trick yourself and to write down the wrong things when you ask the Holy Spirit to be part of the process and you slow it down enough to give him that opportunity. And here's the thing, we don't hear the booming sound of God's voice, right? So God doesn't come down and say, like, weight loss should be your number 3 goal, right? But you'll have this slight uncomfortable feeling when you put weight loss at number 1 and you put, monthly confession at number 3, and you'll have this like kind of gut check reaction, like, ooh, that doesn't feel right. And it's not very scientific, but God talks to us in that way, right? Like, he just kind of taps us on the shoulder and goes, that's not really the right one. And you're going to know that. And I promise that. And so that's really the difference between setting goals in a secular way, where you're trying to chase fame, beauty, happiness, money, success. When you sit down and the first question you ask is, Holy Spirit, I want you to guide me to set the right goals, he's going to do it. And you just need to be humble enough to open your heart to what he has to say. And then the ranking system invites you to ask these tough questions about each goal. And so it does make it really hard to lie to yourself about what really is important. Yeah. Am I giving you a little bit of hope?
Oh my gosh, there's so much information.
Okay. It is a lot of information.
Yes. But I also think allowing, like, maybe the prayer of, Lord, make my shoulds be my wants.
Yeah.
Make what you think I should do, or what I think that you want me to do, Lord. And then I really struggle because I should be doing it, but I don't actually want to be doing it. Like, people who struggle with a prayer routine, Lord, let that should be my want. Like, I should do the prayer routine every morning and have my chair and my bag and have it be the thing that I do in the morning. Like, that needs to become a want. And so, like, just even in those adoration moments, to have that prayer of, okay, Lord, change my heart to the things where where I am thinking should, and I should be thinking want. So go ahead.
One of the things that will happen in this process is you're going to feel this great sense of peace when you set your goals and you stare at them and you're like, those are it. Those are the great goals. And you may still be in that, this is what I should be doing place, still having that fear, like, okay, but I've never really been able to lock this down before. And so you have this kind of negative Nancy voice in your head, but you're going to look at them and say, I feel so good about these. And here's what we're going to do. You're going to read them every single day. And that's the thing that we almost never, ever do, is we set our goals and then we put them in a drawer and we totally forget about them. And so one thing I ask people to do is to really trust the process. If you were in the right state of mind when you made these goals and you invited the Lord to be part of this process and you ended up with these goals that you had so much peace about, okay, and you felt so good about them, then I'm asking you to trust that when you lose that sense of peace and when it's Wednesday at 3 p.m. and you've kind of forgotten or lost that connection to why this was important to you, to just trust that you were in a really, really great place when you wrote those down, okay? And the other thing that we do that I think is so different and extremely powerful is even though I do have people set annual goals, I actually spend very little time in those annual goals. Very quickly, we set our quarterly goals. And I feel so much more connected to what I think I can do in 3 months than what I can do in 12 months. And so by chunking it down, by saying, this is just what I'm going to focus on in these next 3 months, it doesn't feel as big. And I also, Alanna, have them set what I call silly small goals. And so you would probably start out with a silly small goal of praying for 2 minutes every morning. And I say, like, look, make it silly small that you're going to do it. Even if you wake up late and your kids are crying and they're like, I want some breakfast. It's like you can tell them to wait for 2 minutes while you just open your Bible and read one of the Psalms, right? That'll take you 2 minutes. And what I will challenge you to do is to just keep that habit for that 90 days to just build trust with yourself again. So you're just going, you know what? I did it. I did that for 90 days. Now, you may wake up early and knock out 20 minutes one day, and that's great, but you're never going to not do the 2 minutes. Okay. And you're going to build this momentum of wins so that you begin to tell yourself that you are a person who has a prayer routine that you do every single morning. And you're going to build that up within yourself so that you have trust with what you say you're going to do. And then eventually maybe the next quarter will bump that up and say, now your silly small goal is going to be 5 minutes, right? Or 10 minutes. But I promise you, this is how by the end of the year, you're going to actually move the needle and change some things that actually matter to you. Michael Hyatt says people overestimate what they can do in a year, right? So we think we can lose 50 pounds in a year, but we probably can't. And he said, but you underestimate what you can do in 5 years. Okay. And that's what I invite people to really internalize, which is I can get you by the end of the year to wake up every single morning and pray for 5 minutes. You can become that person in a year. And that's smaller than you want. You want to do it for an hour, right? You're like, Mother Teresa, she did it for 2 hours, right? She woke up, her nuns prayed for 2 hours before they did any of their work, right? And we want that kind of holiness. But I can make it so that you're doing 5 or 10 minutes every single morning. And then in 5 years, you'll probably be up to half an hour, depending on your life situation.
So it's all about the baby steps. So it's
Absolutely.
okay to go in easy on yourself. It's not about 2019 will make you a saint.
Right.
It's how do we approach sainthood? One small step at a time.
And the ultimate baby step, like I said, is just noticing when we've lost our peace. If I could just spend a whole year teaching you to do that one thing, I promise you'll make progress on these other things without even realizing it. Because if you have peace, you're going to walk through Target and instead of being like, ooh, that's on sale and buying that thing that I wasn't planning on buying is going to make me happy. When you have a rock solid sense of peace, you don't need to impulse purchase things. And you don't need to eat 5 cookies at the end of the day. And you don't need to drink 2 glasses of wine just to undo all of the stress that you've experienced throughout the day. And so ultimately, that's the smallest baby step that we should be chasing, which is just noticing, oh, I've lost my peace and bringing it back over and over again. And if you do that, you're going to make progress on the other things without even really trying.
That sounds awesome. I think we should call for questions. If anybody out there has any questions, we do have one. Debbie says, what kind of program are you talking about?
I'm sorry. I get so excited about talking about goals that sometimes I don't tell people about the program. So Catholic Women Shine is my goal setting course that I sell. Tomorrow, it'll be open. So you can't sign up for it today. I'm sorry, but we were so excited to talk to you that we just decided to do it a day early. So tomorrow you can go to CatholicWomenShine.com and you'll be able to see my full webinar and then get these worksheets. So all of that is free. I just always want to make sure everyone can get what I do for free. But then there are two things that you can buy if you want. So the first thing is going to be a goal planner. And so it's a physical planner. It's not what am I doing every day? It's not for your appointments and your individual tasks. It's really about setting your goals for the year. And then we focus on those goals, 90 days out. So we focus on them for each quarter. And then we do what we call 2-week sprints. So for 2 weeks, we're going to say, this is what I'm going to do in the next 2 weeks. So this physical planner, and it takes you through all of these exercises that Alanna and I've talked about, and probably 10 more that I didn't talk about, which, explains baby steps and how to start small and how to build a momentum of wins and what are good goals and bad goals. So you can use this planner, which is $35. And then, or you can join this course, and the online course takes you through all of these exercises with me. It looks a lot like this. They're just a bunch of videos, and I try to keep them short because I know that I don't usually have an hour or two at a time to do something. I usually have 15 or 20 minutes. And so we go through all of these exercises together, but the real value of the Catholic Women Shine course is the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group of all of these women that are trying to set goals either for the first time or for the 20th year in a row. And we talk about them in a place of our faith. And so someone will say, I've been really struggling to meal plan forever. I just can't seem to do it. And then as a group, we kind of problem solve that. So I do live Q&As every week. And then we also, in this group, someone will post questions and we'll all kind of pile in and answer them. And it's incredibly beautiful and it's super powerful. And, that's the real benefit of doing the online course, is really just getting to be part of that community.
Yeah, I think community is what's so important, because we have lost the support group and the support system that culture used to have, and we're so isolated in our own homes, and the crazy work and family schedules that happen, that being in this community is going to be so awesome. It is.
It's fun. It's more lighthearted maybe than it sounds. I think we are serious about what we're talking about, but it is really fun. And again, like Alanna said, we're so isolated. And when you see that 50 other people have the exact same problem that you do, one, it just normalizes it. You feel so much more normal. Like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only wussy pants who avoids conflict with my in-laws, we're going to talk about those things and how to really push through that, and how to really change the things that matter to you within the year.
That sounds awesome. We, nobody has, is it a Facebook page? A Facebook page comes with it.
Yeah, so it'll be a group, a private Facebook group. So when you join the course, you'll get a link to this private Facebook group, and you can, you'll join, and then that's where we do most of our chit-chatting. So the course itself is on a website that you'd log into, and you can access that at any time, and you get access to it forever. So that never goes away. But the Facebook group itself is private, and then, you join and you'll get to hang out with all these awesome Catholic ladies.
All right. And I pinned
and only ladies.
Yes. But you do have, will we be able to give access to you said you had worksheets that anyone can use?
Anyone can use them. Yeah. So that goal fill up exercise that I talked about, and the ranking exercise that I talked about, you'll have space to make your goals for the year. Then you'll have worksheets to set them for the quarter, and then for every 2 weeks. Okay. So those will be free. They'll be at CatholicWomenShine.com tomorrow. And they'll just always be up there so that you can print them off anytime you want.
Okay. So even men can do this.
Yeah.
I need to make their own community.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I used some girly examples so they could get over my examples and come up with their own, but the steps are not unique to women at all.
So your husband just needs to make the men's version.
Yes, that's true. He does. My husband does not like goal setting, by the way. He does not like it.
So you haven't converted him in that way.
He puts up with me. He'll sit with me and listen to me do my thing. And he'll be like, yes, that's what we're doing. But I've noticed that he doesn't feel anxious about not knowing what we're doing for the year. Right. So he just, in a way, he's done the hard work, which is he just has peace that we're going to do what we're supposed to do, and God's going to show up when we need him. And so he just doesn't care as much that we don't have everything mapped out and looking at what we're doing. And so, yeah, I feel like he's done the hard thing, which is the peace part.
Pete Sock says, I need to dudify it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
Yeah, you
Get on
do,
it, Pete. All right. And Debbie says she's going to try to look for the for what we were talking about, and it's in the pinned comment. I put catholicwomenshine.com in the pinned comment. It won't be live, or the links won't be live to download till tomorrow.
Right. So today, if you go there, what you're going to see is a sign up sheet for the webinar tomorrow, because that's how I always start the program. I tell everyone from start to finish what the whole thing is about. And some of this stuff that we've talked about here today. And so that's what it looks like right now. And then as soon as the webinar is over, then you'll be able to get those worksheets.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other goal setting questions, or did we cover everything that was on your mind? Did we cover it all?
So I'm going to be answering a lot of questions tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah, good. And so we are actually almost at an hour. I know. Look at us go. We just talk.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about having problems resting on Sunday, it just made me think, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And how I have a problem procrastinating. Like, my brain is like, you're resting. No, I'm not.
Right.
I'm totally procrastinating. And then it makes it so I don't have, so that piece isn't there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, procrastinating is not resting, people.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that and how to find peace in those moments. But I think that's such a good example. It's small things. It's these small moments where we're not present and we don't have peace, and we can even make it look really good. But if we're not calm inside, if we're not connected to God, it's not the way he wants us to live. And that, in my opinion, is the secret to sainthood, right? Like, if we can just learn how to live with peace, no matter what is happening, we will become great saints. Awesome. That's it.
Yeah. And the peace allows us to then accept what God wants for us in our lives. So he can't give us what we want, which is, like that happiness and God's love, the feeling of God's love, until we're allow ourselves to be in a place to accept it.
Yeah.
So, and we got to thank you for answering questions and for doing this. So everyone, thank you for joining us. Give it a share. I know we're done, and she can't answer any more questions after this, but you can join her webinar tomorrow if you think of any questions afterwards. And check her out also, sterlingjaquith.com. Yes?
Yes.
Is that
all the things are there. And you can see all the things that we do. And
she's on Facebook. You can follow her. And fellow podcaster, so Catholic Minimalism and Coffee and Pearls.
Coffee and Pearls, yeah, which is just 15 minutes for Catholic moms. So it's short but sweet and awesome.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining and supporting us. And have a Merry Christmas. And a fruitful, goal-filled new year.
It's going to be awesome, you guys, I promise.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Alanna.